Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Restorations and Repairs. Check it out on this rainy day. I've got the Beetle back inside. Gonna do some paint work, some correction here. Now I'm not gonna respray this car. I kind of like the patina look, but the paint is dull, it's flat. You can kind of see it as I walk around here and show you what's going on with it. So what I'm gonna do to fix this, and you know, there's only so much you can do with a paint job like this, but you can certainly make it look more presentable. I've got two products here that I'm gonna be using, actually three. Let me grab them here. And one of these I bought years ago for the Mirage that I have, and it's color matched wax. And the other ones here are a rubbing compound, which is what I'm gonna be using first, and a polishing compound. And what you do here to make this paint come back from the dead is to get yourself the rubbing compound, and you wanna work in small areas, but what that does is it takes all the oxidization off of this thing and kind of smooths out any minor imperfections. Of course, you can overdo it. I do this by hand because if you use a buffer for this, you could actually burn or hurt or damage the paint a little bit. It also works on the chrome struts. It'll help make them more shiny as well. Now, after I'm done with the rubbing compound, I go and wipe all that off. Then I'm gonna hit it with the polishing compound. And then finally, I hit it with the color treatment wax. Now all this stuff, I got this years ago, I got like a value pack from The Treatment, it's called. But you know, Turtle Wax and all these other companies sell this stuff as well. This isn't a paid advertisement or anything like that. It's just literally how I go about making these things look a little better. And so what I'm gonna do here is but I'm gonna just take a spot here, right here, and I'm gonna do a small section of all three steps and show you along the way as it works. So let me get the camera closer in and I'll walk you through, you know, just how different you can make paint look, even though it's rough like this, without having to do a respray. Let's do it. All right, first up, I'm gonna get my rubbing compound. And it's really, rubbing compound is really an abrasive. It's a very, very fine abrasive, but it is an abrasive. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and small circular motions like you do with any wax or polish. And we'll hit an area. We just want to work that in pretty well. The more time you spend on this, the better your outcome will be. We're just going to rub that down. Of course, you don't want to let it get dry, which it's starting to do here because I've got the heat on out here today. And we'll let that get in there. Now, rubbing compound doesn't have any kind of wax product. So another reason you would want to use rubbing compound on something is if you were going to paint it, you can go through and clean off any imperfections and get it ready for paint. All right, I'm gonna let that dry here for a second. And you can see how much paint has actually come off. That is gonna be a normal byproduct of using rubbing compound. You're taking off thin layer of paint in order to do this, but the results are going to be worth it. All right, we're gonna go ahead and clean that off. Hopefully this shows as well as it does in person. Okay, that's no wax or anything, but you can see the line here, and the roughness is already smoothed out. But again, there's no wax in this. Okay, you can actually see the ruby color come through in that paint. Not bad. All right, so now we'll move on to polishing compound. Now, polishing compound is like wax plus, right? It still has a higher level of abrasiveness in it than a normal wax would have. But it's for that extra shine. You want to cut down some of those minor scratches. So think of rubbing compound as like the nuclear option. Polishing compound is like the conventional weapon, and wax is just like a treatment for your paint. So you're going to take some paint off, but very small amounts when using this. Okay, and you can see, again, we're taking some of that color is actually just like the film that's built up on top of it, but it is the off-gassing of your paint over 60-something years, or I don't know how old this is, 66, so you can do the math on that. Okay, all right, we'll let that sit and dry. We'll buff that off, and then we'll move on to the final coat. All right, that should be dry enough. And we're gonna buff that off. Again, now polishing compound and wax, you can use a buffer, electric buffer for that. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm just doing this with this because I'm doing a small area just to show you what I'm up to. Wow. Okay. All right. So again, hard to say how well that's showing up. I think you can see the massive difference here between like this kind of flat, almost looks like a rattle can paint job, and then here is our very old but very original paint, and the depth is coming back to that nicely. All right, and then the last step we're going to do is this stuff, which is color matched wax. It's just wax with a pigment in it. I love using this on my little Mitsubishi Mirage. It really helps that paint get a nice dark tone to it. It really brings it back, makes it vibrant. I love it. And you know, I think the first time I saw this was Color Coat 2000 on TV as an infomercial back when I had my first car, my very first car. So we're talking back in the late 80s. And you know, I'm sure people out there that think stuff just doesn't work, but it does. Now, is it a permanent fix? No. But if you want something to look nice, you can take it out on a car show, or you want to photograph it or something like that. It really does help the color look more rich, more deep, more vibrant. And so for that reason alone, I think it's worth the money. Costs the same as regular wax, actually. Walmart sometimes carries this stuff. When I wanted to get the red, since red is not a common color anymore, you know, all the cars now, silver, gray, white. Gross. Maybe gold. I hate that. What happened to cool colored cars, you know? Everything is so bland and boring in this country now. Just in the world, including people, honestly. How many people are even restoring cars anymore? It's such a dying breed, just like everything else. People just sit on their phones. All right, and we'll let that sit for a bit. We'll buff that off. And all right, well, there we go. Let's go ahead and buff this off. I'll get the camera off the tripod, kind of hit this from different angles, because, you know, it's hard to say whether or not the camera's doing this any justice. I would normally do this kind of work outside, but it's winter and it's raining later on today. It's supposed to start snowing again. So I'm just trying to knock this out while I can. All right, hopefully y'all can see. That's a pretty massive difference, but let me get the camera off here and we'll show it up close. All right, so original, now it's been washed, but that's all. And then let's move into that, which is, I mean, that looks so much better. I don't know, I hope the camera can do it justice, and you can see tapers back off into the unrestored paint or unfixed paint. Right. All right, so I've actually done half the car. I'm just gonna do a walk around here while I wrap this thing up, and you can see it. But yeah, overall, it's amazing what just a little bit of effort, a little bit of wax, a little bit of hand work can get done on a car like this, make it look a whole lot better. Now, do I want to pay the money to paint this car? Nah. Honestly, it'll take away a lot of its charm if I do. So bringing it back like this, making it something where it looks better, it looks more preserved, but more original as well, is the way to go. I guess that'll do it, my friends. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I don't know, I guess I'll leave links to where you can pick up some kind of chemicals like these, a list of the stuff that I use, and I'll see you next time. Take care.